This is the Truth as I See It podcast, hosted by Mizal. Nothing is random.
He touched the wound. This is the Truth as I See It podcast, hosted by Mizal. And today, we're talking about why Kevin Samuels still bothers people. Not why he was controversial. Not why people said he was too harsh. Not why clips of him went super viral. We're talking about why, even years after his death, his name still makes people argue like the wound never healed. That tells you something. Because most internet personalities disappear after the algorithm is done with them. They trend. They offend people. They get clipped. Then the culture moves on. But Kevin Samuels didn't vanish that way. His name still comes up every time people start talking about dating, standards, modern women, high value men, marriage, image, accountability, and unrealistic expectations. Why? Because Kevin Samuels was not just content. He was a mirror. And people hate mirrors when they are not ready to change. Now, let's be honest. This is not a Kevin Samuels worship episode. He was not perfect. He was not always right. His delivery could be harsh. Sometimes it was cold, humiliating. Sometimes it felt like truth mixed with entertainment. And yes, that gave his critics all the ammunition it needed. But here is where the conversation gets dishonest. A lot of people use his tone to avoid his point. Because if they can make the whole conversation about how Kevin said it, they never had to answer what Kevin asked. And what he asked was simple. Do the people you want actually want you back? That was the unforgivable question. Because Kevin did not just ask women what they wanted. He asked if they were qualified for what they wanted. He asked if the fantasy matched the reality. He asked if the standard went both ways. And that is why the truth hurt too much. Again, this is the Truth as I See It podcast, hosted by Mizal. And this episode is titled, Why Kevin Samuels Still Bothers People. The truth hurt too much. Now, this may not be the truth that everybody likes, but it's damn sure the truth as I see it. Nothing is random. The tone was the escape hatch. Now, let's deal with the obvious first. Kevin's tone was a problem. He was sharp, cold, direct, sometimes funny, surgical, disrespectful. And sometimes he clearly understood that humiliation travels faster than advice. That matters. Because how you tell the truth matters. You can wake somebody up with truth. Or you can embarrass them with truth while the audience laughs. And those are not the same damn thing. So yes, Kevin gave people a reason to criticize him. But here is the part people don't want to admit. His delivery also became the perfect escape hatch. Because once the conversation becomes only about tone, nobody has to deal with the substance. Kevin would ask a direct question. What do you want? What do you bring? How old are you? How many children do you have? Can you attract the man you say you deserve? And instead of answering the question, the conversation became, why is he so mean? Why does he hate women? Why is he talking to her like that? Sometimes those questions were fair, but sometimes they were also convenient. Because tone policing is useful when you don't want the audit. A harsh messenger can still carry an uncomfortable message. A flawed delivery does not automatically erase a real point. And that is where Kevin Samuels became difficult to dismiss. Because beneath the harshness was a question modern dating culture did not like to answer. Are your expectations connected to your reality? The question does not need to be screamed. It does not need insulting. It does not need to be cruel. But it does need to be asked. And Kevin asked publicly. That is why people were not just offended, they were exposed. Why women hated the audit. Kevin Samuels did something modern culture usually avoids. He audited women out loud. Not privately, gently, not wrapped in affirmation, not with soft music and self-love language. Publicly, on camera, in front of everybody. And that is why the reaction was so explosive. Because modern dating conversations usually interrogate men's performance while protecting women's feelings. Men are constantly told to improve, make more money, get in shape, be more masculine, be more emotionally available, more stable, more ambitious, better leaders, better providers, better communicators. And that's fine. Men should be challenged. But Kevin flipped the camera. He asked women, what do you bring? What is your attitude like? What is your relationship history? What kind of man do you want? Can you realistically attract that man? And most importantly, do the men you want you back? That question set the room on fire because it attacked the fantasy. A lot of people are taught that wanting something is enough to justify expecting it. And Kevin said no. Wanting a high-value man does not mean you qualify for one. Wanting marriage does not mean you are prepared for marriage. Wanting leadership does not mean you are willing to cooperate. Wanting provision does not mean you bring peace. Wanting standards does not mean you are exempt from being measured. That was the audit. And the audit felt disrespectful because modern culture has trained a lot of people to confuse evaluation with attack. But isn't dating evaluation? Huh? Marriage? Huh? Commitment. Don't men evaluate women? Don't women evaluate men? Doesn't everybody evaluate? The difference is Kevin said the evaluation out loud. That was his cultural crime. He violated the agreement. The agreement says women can publicly advertise standards, but men are supposed to keep their standards quiet. Men are supposed to soften their standards, hide them, or make them sound harmless. Kevin didn't do that. He said the quiet part into a microphone, and many people hated him for it because he challenged the privilege of being desired without being evaluated. That line is the whole episode. He challenged the privilege of being desired without being evaluated. And once he did that, the backlash was guaranteed. Huh? The contradictions he exposed. Kevin Samuels exposed contradictions that modern dating culture still has not resolved. First contradiction. A lot of women say they want a traditional man, but they reject traditional expectations. They want provision, protection, leadership. They want masculine stability. A man who can handle pressure. A man who can pay bills, create security. But when the conversation turns to cooperation, femininity, humility, attitude, family building, sexual discipline, or respect for leadership, suddenly tradition becomes oppression. And that is selective traditionalism. Old school benefits for me. Modern freedom for me. Responsibility for you. Accountability for nobody. And Kevin called that out. Second contradiction. A lot of women say they want honesty, but only if the honesty arrives wrapped in affirmation. They say, tell me the truth. But if the truth is not flattering, the messenger becomes abusive. That is not love of truth. That is a demand for comfort. Third contradiction. A lot of women say men are intimidated by successful women. Sometimes that is true. Some men are insecure. But sometimes men are not intimidated by the success. Sometimes men are uninterested in the attitude that comes along with it. That's a different conversation. Your resume may impress an employer. That does not mean it creates peace in a home. Your income may raise your lifestyle. That does not mean it raises your romantic value to the man you want. Your independence may protect you. That does not automatically make cooperation easier. Kevin exposed that difference. Fourth contradiction. A lot of women say they are the prize. But when asked what makes them the prize in practical relationship terms, the answer often collapses into slogans. I know my worth. I'm confident. I'm independent. I bring myself. I'm a queen. That may sound good online, but in a relationship, value has to become something another person experiences. Peace, loyalty, respect, cooperation, health, emotional maturity, family vision, sexual discipline, If the only answer is I'm me, then that is not a relationship argument. That is branding. And Kevin attacked the branding. Fifth contradiction. A lot of women say they want a high value man, but resents high value male preferences. That is a big one. They want a man with options, but get offended that man with options chooses selectively. They want a man who is exceptional, but want him to evaluate like an average man. They want a man other women desire, but resent that his desirability gives him all the leverage. That is not realistic. You cannot demand the top and then be offended when the top has standards. That is what Kevin made famous, and that is why he became a problem. Because modern dating culture protects female desire from scrutiny while constantly demanding male performance. Kevin interrupted that protection. He told people, you don't get to want standards without facing standards. You don't get to call yourself the prize and then refuse inspection. You don't get to demand a high value outcome with low accountability behavior. That was the real offense. Not the suit, not the voice, not the microphone, not the audit. The truth hurt too much, huh? The manipulation, he interrupted. This is the part people really don't want to touch. Kevin interrupted manipulation tactics that are common in modern dating conversations. Not all women, not every woman, but patterns inside modern dating culture. The first tactic is tone policing. When the point gets uncomfortable, the focus shifts to how it was said. Again, tone does matter, but tone policing becomes manipulation when it is used to escape the question. Kevin asked, "Can you attract what you demand?" The response becomes, "Why are you so mean?" That is not an answer. That's a detour. The second tactic is victim repositioning. That is when someone being challenged quickly reframes themselves as harmed, so accountability stops. Kevin asks, "Are your expectations realistic?" The response becomes, "This is damaging. This is abusive. That's an attack." Sometimes people are genuinely hurt, but sometimes hurt becomes a shield against examination. Kevin would ask for accountability, and suddenly the room turned into injury management. The third tactic is inflated self-valuation. That is when self-esteem gets treated like relationship value. I know my worth. Okay. But how does that worth show up in a relationship? Huh? Can I trust that worth? Huh? Can I build something with that worth? Can I come home to that worth? Can I depend on that worth under pressure? Huh? Can I raise children with that worth? If knowing your worth only means nobody can critique you, that is not confidence. That is ego protection. Fourth tactic, accountability reversal. That is when the person asking the question becomes the villain, because the person being questioned does not want to answer. Kevin asks, "What do you bring?" And the response becomes, why are you judging women? Kevin asks, do the men you want you? And the response becomes, you hate women. Kevin asks, are your standards realistic? And the response becomes, you're insecure. If someone truly hates women, call it out. If someone is disrespectful, call it out. But do not use accusation as a substitution for an answer. When someone cannot answer the question, they often prosecute the questioner. That is what Kevin kept running into. He asked questions people wanted ruled out of bounds. And the only way to protect the fantasy was to attack the man asking. That is why he became so polarizing. He did not create the contradiction. He interrupted the performance. Men misuse him too. But that doesn't erase the point. Now, to be honest, men are not innocent here. Some men use Kevin Samuels as a weapon. They did not hear self-improvement. They heard revenge. They did not hear discipline. They heard permission to bash women. They did not hear standards. They heard ammunition. And that's weak. Because Kevin criticized men too. Broke men, lazy men, undisciplined men, men with no plan, men wanting attractive women while bringing nothing but complaints, men wanting submission without being worthy of cooperation, men wanting respect without building anything respectable. But many men skipped that part. They wanted the clips where women got checked, not the parts where men had to become better. That is not accountability. That's cowardice. If Kevin's message only made you harsher towards women and not stricter with yourself, then you missed the damn point. You did not become high value. You became loud with borrowed language. And that's why this episode cannot become lazy women bashing, because that's too easy. Kevin's mirror faced women often, but it was supposed to face men too. The issue is that everybody loves accountability when it's visiting somebody else. Men use Kevin to say, see, women are delusional. But did those same men ask, am I disciplined? Am I fit? Am I financially stable? Can I lead, build, protect, provide structure? Can I attract the women I criticize? If no, then sit your ass down. You are not improved because you repeat Kevin Samuels. A man using truth only to attack women is not principled. He's resentful. And resentment is not leadership. That has to be said. The final verdict. The truth hurt too much. So where do I land on Kevin Samuels? Here's the honest verdict. Kevin Samuels was polarizing because he combined truth, ego, performance, insult, analysis, and entertainment into one package. That package was powerful, but it was also messy. His delivery gave critiques real ammunition, but critics often use the delivery as a shield against the substance. His supporters claimed to love accountability, but many only loved it when accountability was aimed at women. That is the contradiction. Kevin exposed a culture that wants honesty without discomfort, standards without self-audit, love without realism, marriage without preparation, desire without discipline, options without consequences, and a truth without pain. But truth does not always arrive politely. Truth sometimes comes dressed wrong. Truth sometimes comes through a flawed messenger. Sometimes truth comes through a tone you don't like. But that does not mean you have to accept disrespect. But it does mean you have to still examine why the message disturbed you. Did it disturb you because it was false? Or because it touched something you did not want named? That is the question. Kevin Samuels was not dangerous because he was always right. He was dangerous because he said things people were already afraid might be true. That is why the argument continues, because the wound continues. The dating crisis is still here. The unrealistic expectations are still here. The image economy is still here. The male frustration is still here. The female defensiveness is still here. The refusal to self-audit is still here. And until people stop using truth as a weapon and accountability as gender attack, nothing will change. Men need to stop using Kevin Samuels as permission to hate women. Women need to stop using Kevin Samuels' tone as permission to avoid every uncomfortable standard. Both sides need to grow the fuck up. But let's not rewrite history. The reason many women hated Kevin so deeply was not only because he was harsh. It was because he asked the forbidden question: do the men you actually want you back? And that question cut through the fantasy. And truth hurt too damn much. This is the truth as I see it. Hosted by Mizal. Nothing is random.